Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, and today I'm here to talk about Season 3, Episode 6 of Paramount Plus's Mayor of Kingstown, entitled Ecotone, or Ecotone, I don't know. But the episode is titled Ecotone, or Ecotone, which Merle gives a nice little explanation for at the end of the episode. It still makes me wonder how they land on episode titles, though, because that was a pretty anticlimactic little explanation he gives at the end. But he describes prison as an ecotone or ecotone, a place where two different biological communities meet, like where the forest meets the field or the mountains meets the plains. That's the examples that he gave. He says this is where predators feed, and he only associates himself with predators. So in order to prove himself as a predator worth associating with, Merle tasked Mike with a hit on Bunny. Pretty big ask. But the weight of that scene, or at least the weight that I think that they were going for, is absent due to the implausibility of the request. If you watch all of my videos, which very few people do, but if you watch my House of the Dragon video, I talked a lot about doing the work to make a certain scene have an impact, make it work for the viewer. Laying that groundwork, laying that foundation so that when these things happen, they have that desired impact. This show hasn't done enough to make me think that Merle has that kind of sway or power over Mike, or that Mike would even consider betraying Bunny. So what I think was intended to be a big moment felt very empty for me. And again, what do I always talk about? What good shows do versus what great shows do? House of the Dragon ended their most recent episode with a scene that has built up starting from the previous season, from season 1. This couldn't even make me feel like Merle has a reason to make that kind of request of Mike. So, like, if they want me to react in any way other than why the fuck would Mike do that, they should have done more to make me think that Merle has Mike's back against the wall or put Mike on the outs with Bunny, something to that effect. But it did neither of those things, so I have no reason to believe that Mike would even abide by that request. Now, obviously, the show is going to build conflict off of this request, and Mike's maybe going to consider doing something, and they're going to build some tension off of that. But that scene specifically, it didn't work for me because I don't buy that Mike would even consider this. So it's like saying, like, I'm only going to think that you're a predator if you shoot Kyle in the asshole. I'm going to be like, okay, well, he's not going to do that. So, but that's not even what really irritated me about this episode. An episode that by and large I thought was, decent. It was solid. I was mostly irritated by whatever the fuck that funeral was. Like, I talk all the time, again, about great shows doing the little things that separate a great show from all the rest of the shows. The unnecessary muddiness. What have I been saying all season of this show? I've been using the term unnecessary muddiness or being coy with things. But the unnecessary muddiness of this funeral scene is the kind of laziness that causes this show to not get any respect and thus not get many viewers. So let's talk about my issues with this scene. Hey everybody, I just want to take a small break from this review to talk about the various other ways you can engage with me on other platforms. If you're so inclined, and I understand why you wouldn't, I am an acquired taste, but you can join the Patreon where you can get extra content like retro reviews, where I review old shows and movies to see if they still hold up today, Mike's Musings, where I talk about shows I'm watching that I don't cover on the channel, or Mike's VOD, where you can commission me to watch a show, which I will then review on the channel. And if you want to engage with me and chat with me more directly, I also implore you to join the Discord and follow the Facebook page. I set up channels in the Discord for all of us to discuss the shows I'm reviewing on the channel, and I also drop new videos in there since it's the easiest platform for me to share to from my phone. The Facebook can be really fun because I sort of live comment on shows I'm watching, often while under the influence, I'm not going to lie. And I'll also share news there, both about television and film and about myself as well. So if you like my content, you want to be more engaged, you think I'm charming, or you simply want to show support, feel free to sign up for the Patreon or join the Discord or Facebook today. Links to all platforms are in every video description. Remember to share all my shit to your respective social media platforms. And now back to this review. When Mike arrives at the location, we immediately recognize it as Rhonda's shop, and Bunny is already there. Immediately, my brain goes to, well, I guess this is Rhonda's funeral. I don't know why it's not at a church or a funeral home, and it's at her fucking shop, but whatever, right? They go inside, and it looks like a funeral. It's set up to look like a funeral. They renovated this shop into a funeral home specifically for Rhonda, and I'm like, okay, this is definitely Rhonda's funeral, right? Because they just walked into her shop, and now it looks like a funeral home. And then they walk up to the casket, and there's a picture of an old man, like, on an easel. And now, if you've ever been to a funeral, seen one on TV, seen one in a movie, or even had a motherfucker describe one to you, the picture on the easel next to the casket is the motherfucker that's in the casket. So who the fuck was that old man? Like, I don't get this scene. Like, Bunny tells this great story about how this old man lived all the way till old age, and he died in his sleep despite staying in the game when he could have got out. And I couldn't even fully respect or enjoy this great story because the whole time I'm wondering if they're at this guy's funeral or Rhonda's. And if they're at this guy's funeral, why? Because who the fuck is he? And if they're at Rhonda's, why is no one there? And why is there a picture of a random old man next to her casket? Like, what were they doing with this scene, man? And whatever explanation you can give me for this scene only serves to prove my point, because you shouldn't have to fancy up an explanation for what might be going on. It should make sense on the fucking screen, man. And this is the kind of shit this show is doing this season that it didn't do in the past. And it makes me think that this show just doesn't have too much time left. I also wasn't a fan. Sorry, guys. I also wasn't a fan of how this episode handled the separating of Merle and Constantine. So early in the episode, Mike made it sound like his plans for Constantine and Merle were to limit Bunny's ability to hit back in response to Rhonda. Like, let me limit what he can do in response. That I believe Mike explicitly says that. Actually, before I even continue, everybody on the show underreacted to the death of Rhonda, by the way. Like, the show is going out of its way to show a really good, wholesome, nice relationship between Rhonda and Mike that makes you think, like, man, Mike should really go out with Rhonda. They should get together. They've gone out of their way to show a nice relationship between Rhonda and Bunny. And both Mike and Bunny acted like this was just a random person that got killed and not someone that was important to them. But anyway, like I said, I thought Mike was limiting Bunny's ability to hit back by getting Constantine off the streets with the warrant and putting Merle in Ag's egg so Raph and others couldn't get to him. So him and Merle talk about balance at the end of the episode. And I thought that's what this was. I thought this was Mike providing balance. He could allow Bunny and the Crips to hit back at Constantine and Merle. They both deserve it. But instead, he found a way to protect them that doesn't look like protection and could help possibly delay a war. It's all of this was smart on Mike's part, in my opinion. But then Merle, for whatever unexplained reason, takes offense to being put in ADSEG and says that he doesn't feel special. And I'm like, I thought the show was trying to tell me the exact opposite, that this was for his benefit, and now it's telling me that he's mad about it. It's messy, it doesn't make sense, and it's lazy, shitty writing. I will say, though, that I appreciated Mike mouthing the words "fuck you" as he hung up the phone on Merle, letting me know that the muddy scene from earlier last week, where it looked like he was agreeing to help Merle, was in fact just him placating Merle. So I now know that, okay, at least he doesn't actually plan on that, but the fact that I even had to question it, again, huge flaws in the writing on this season. But let's talk about Mike's plan briefly before we get into the subplots for this episode. Like I said, Merle's going into AGSEG. Speaking of which, Kareem seems to be up to no good this entire episode, but they don't do anything with it or tell us what's going on. He was a little bit too agreeable to Mike's request for my comfort, but I don't know what's going on with Kareem, but the show didn't really give us much anything. It didn't really give us much to go off of this episode anyway. So Mike asks Evelyn to get a judge to sign an arrest warrant for Constantine, but everyone, myself included, is worried about how Robert will behave when they go to the club to arrest Constantine. Mike also gives Iris a heads up that they're coming and tells her to get out of there. And I did like this aspect of the episode because you guys know I hate Iris. But they finally made her smart here, I think. Like, she's right. It would have looked incredibly suspicious if she leaves to go take a lunch right before the club gets raided. At the same time, I see where Mike's coming from too. He has no idea how Robert is going to behave in this situation. Robert has a shoot-first mentality, and even in making this plan, was begging to keep killing motherfuckers on the table as an option. Like in spite of Mike saying, Mike's like, don't even load your weapon. It's like, can I at least bring a couple of kill shot bullets? Like, can I at least write some names on some bullets? Like, so, if Iris stays, she could become an innocent bystander. So I understand why Mike would want her to get out of there. But most importantly, Iris is stupid. She should just listen to Mike by default because she doesn't know any better. But having said that, it was wise for her to stay. And eating that elbow from Robert will go even further toward earning Constantine's trust. So that wasn't intentional, but good move there. Characters haven't been behaving very logically on this show as of late, but at least that was a move that should earn her some trust with Constantine. Moving on, though, one of the subplots advances how the prison is responding to what's happening on the outside. The guards on the inside that are affiliated with various groups and gangs are throwing their weight around as well. We see a scene where Raph has a visit from his wife, his baby mama, we don't know. But they share a moment talking about his son and how proud he is of his son. His son's doing really good at school. Raph gets emotional. They hold hands across the table, only for the guards, AB, to overreact by roughing Raph up and getting his girl up out of there. There's a later scene where the mom tells the son that Raph is proud of him. This scene, like many others this show does, where they think one or two uneventful scenes is enough plot advancement for one episode. This scene felt pretty pointless, but I think it's meant to hit at Raph's family potentially facing repercussions later. Or not repercussions, retaliation. They didn't. Repercussions suggest that they did something to deserve it. And then these guards also beat up Carney. And not for anything that he's done, but just for being on the wrong side of things. Well, I guess something he's done. He does discover that they are presumably bringing the drugs in through the cars in the car repair shop. But I'll get to that in a moment. They also throw some casual racism at the CO that's related to Bunny, calling him Smokey, which I don't know why I thought it was funny. It's definitely racist, but I thought it was funny. But like I said, Carney does seem to figure out that the drugs are being brought to the prison via the car repair shop. And even that situation is weird to me. Like, I thought the question was, how are the Russians poisoning the drugs, not how are the drugs getting into the prison? But again, I mean, there's evidence of sloppiness and laziness all through this episode and all through this season. The Russians spiked the drugs. We covered that. It was with some Russian speed or some shit. That's why people are dying. How are the Russians spiking the drugs? That's what I want to know, and I thought that's what Mike and Bunny wanted to know. Not once ever have I wondered how the drugs are getting into the prison. They could still be bringing them in from fucking carrier pigeon, like one season where I was like, maybe that's where they had that one scene with the guy and the pigeon at the beginning. I'm like, maybe the pigeon's bringing messages or hitting them over in tennis balls. I don't care. Like, I'm not even thinking about that. So like, I don't understand how that became a thing. I don't know. Anyway, the last subplot tagline on this episode revolves around Tracy. That's Kyle's wife. They don't spend a lot of time on her either. She's returned to work and is not happy with how the women's prison is treating its inmates. Specifically, how I mean, they're obviously females, women's prison, but like how the female inmates, when they're being brought into the hospital portion, how the men are treating them. In yet another, what is going on here kind of scene, Tracy goes to visit the warden and hops on her soapbox about how if this woman got pregnant in prison, that she was very obviously raped, and there's no other explanation for that because of the power dynamic. And they might as well just change Tracy's name to Karen because she was loud, obnoxious, and most importantly, wrong. Like, I don't know what purpose that scene served other than to undermine Tracy as a character, but it very much did that. Like, you want to make a character instantly lose credibility? Make them be loud and wrong. And that's what's happening here. And to what end? Like, what purpose does this serve to have Tracy being indignant and wrong as fuck? Like, and I saw, I want to say it was Vulture, and they mentioned something about this scene, and they're like, Tracy, I don't. They described what happened in the scene. Like, Tracy says that this woman must have been raped, like as if this is a new character that we don't already know. And I could look at that as like, oh, that Vulture reviewer just missed the thing and shit on them, just like you guys shit on me when I make a mistake. But like I don't think that's their fault. Like, I think the show is not doing a good. If the show wants to convey that Tracy is wrong, they're doing a terrible job of it. And then, to what end do you have show the audience a sequence of events, have a character describe that sequence of events in a way that is just not what happened? Like, where are we going with this? And then she later even lies to Kyle about the nature of her day at work. I don't know where they're going with this, but I just only know it's not interesting, and it's also irritating. Additionally, in the scene where she lies about her day, Kyle arrives at home And he's surprised to see her there with the baby. And he's like, oh, are you on the graveyard shift? Suggesting that she just has not yet gone to work. And she's like, no, I'm off the next 24 hours. And he's like, yeah, me too. Now, this scene relays to me that their schedules are erratic. Kyle arrives home. He's surprised to see her there. He asks, are you on the graveyard shift? Like, oh, is there a possibility that you just got scheduled for the late night? Like she doesn't have a consistent schedule. It could change from day to day. She's surprised to learn that he's off for the next 24 hours. They're like, oh, shit, we're both off the next 24 hours. What do we do? Watch the fucking baby. That's what you should do. Who's watching this baby if their schedule is so erratic that Kyle can come home and be surprised to see her and learn that she's not on the graveyard shift? Like, have they given that any thought? Or are they just like, yeah, whenever they're at home, just have the baby there. And the audiences are going to wonder where the baby is when they're not there. I wonder where the baby is when they're not there, because I'm accustomed to watching shows that, again, take care of those sorts of little things, that care about the small things, that lay groundwork and set things up. I care about the great shows who do that, and I watch those shows, so I watch it and I expect it in other shows. So when it's not there, I notice it. And who's watching that baby? All in all, this show's fading fast. More and more logical inconsistencies, fewer scenes that make sense or convey what the show thinks it's conveying, numerous scenes that are needlessly muddy or confusing. It's a logistical shit show at this point, and I don't see any possibility that this season can recover. It's too late in the season, seeing as how it's been seeing how it's been consistently like this from episode 1. So from 1 to 6, it's been the same. There's no reason for me to think the last 4 are going to turn how this season is. I don't know, you guys. This show is seeming real run-of-the-mill right now to me, and it's no longer even doing the things well that it used to do well. I don't know, but, I mean, am I being too hard on it? You let me know what you thought in the comments, and until next week, peace.